Welcome to the Immigrant Experience in America, an immigrant human library, where we amplify and humanize the experiences of immigrants in the United States and around the world. Listen in as we add another story to our immigrant human library. So many interviews, we just, hey, we can't, this needs to at some point start supporting itself financially because we have publicists, people with books and businesses wanting to come on the podcast, and they're benefiting because we're paying for editing, we're paying for promotional activities. At one point we were on an international radio station, so we have to come out of our own finances plus our time and efforts that are going in. So my husband has been my strong support, and I recently, after maybe a year and a half of a hiatus trying to do it ourselves, decided I definitely need the help, and I hired another virtual assistant to help me organize and get all of this together because it's growing. It's grown from the moment we started 3 years ago. So, but I always put the word out to people who are listening, who are out there. If you're passionate really about finding other people like you who are in different countries around the world, who are struggling to build community, to find belonging that you had when you were back home. Some people are going through what we call cultural homelessness, where after a decade or two of living abroad, you've obviously changed, right?
Yeah.
Because you've changed, adapted to the new country. You have to. That's how you're going to survive and thrive. And so you've changed, and you're no longer like the birth country, but you're not really fully like the native country that you moved to either. So it's you're in the middle. You're like a hybrid of these two countries. Yeah. So you're what we call a third culture person or a third culture kid. And so you're a hybrid of these two worlds, or you could be like more than two. Right? Because there's some people who come from multiple cultures as well. And so if you're passionate about this work, I welcome you. Reach out to us. We could use as many hands as we can. We have a YouTube channel that is connected to a Patreon that we're trying to get people to offer support to us to kind of offset the cost that goes with doing this. There's different levels of contributing, as low as like $5 and so forth. So we're really trying to build the support. These things take time, especially when you're still working full time and doing this on your free time. So it's been 3 years and we've made a lot of progress. Kudos and thanks to my husband for standing behind me through all of the challenges and figuring it out and not knowing what was the next thing to do when we first started. And so if you're hearing this and you want to join in and give us some support, I'll share all my contact with my friend here who can get that over to you.
Yeah, I think it's you mentioned an important point. If you want to build community, you really need help because it is a lot of work. And I think another thing is also the cost. There's a lot of time I find when we're talking about community building, it's seen as something that one should do for charity, right? Sometimes, maybe a lot of times expected that it's done like for free. You cannot keep just using your own money like that when you are offering a service to people, and you are inputting a lot of time. I don't know if you run ads, but things like ads, your virtual assistants needs to be paid. So I think it's kind of invisible, and we should talk about, like, in a sense, the hidden costs hidden to the people outside of the work of doing like community building. And that's something that I think about myself. I struggled. Obviously, the work that I do is partly social, and I really struggled. Okay, what legal structure am I going to go with? And because the natural or the maybe expected legal structure would be like a nonprofit, because people think, oh, but what you're doing is social, so it's charity work. And I think that part of that mindset is why social kind of, or more socially tinted work is underfunded, because people have this idea that everything should be done for free, or it should be done within nonprofit legal structure or something like this. So I think it's a good idea that you are doing it with like Patreon and these things, even though you didn't it's now that you're starting to do it. But I think it's good that you took that step to do it via Patreon. And how is that going?
Not a lot of visibility because, of course, we need more hands, right?
Yeah.
We need more hands to do this consistently, to find where these people are, and to get the word out. We can only do so much. Myself, after I would have been at work until 2:30 today, and then I would have gotten home at 3 and then jump on this interview with you at 4 o'clock. But I had some doctor's appointments, so I ended up taking the day off. So, and plus, I have a 6-year-old. She just finished school yesterday, so we had to be at home with her today. So our lives still go on. So we need to eat just the same. And this has grown so much where it feels now like a full-time job. Yeah. It really does feel like a full-time job. And so the amount of time and effort and mental space of planning and organizing all of the details that goes along with the podcast and the book and the coaching and the courses, building our website, there's a lot of finances that go into building a small business. And so those are a lot of the hidden costs. I think I need to get someone into that Patreon account and make sure that everything is set up properly and trying to figure out how do we market it to people who might even consider supporting and helping us offset the cost that goes along with giving people visibility when they write a book and tell their story, or if they're starting a coaching business or other service oriented, whatever business, and they want to come on because they have that immigrant hyphenated affiliation. We're here for you. However, we also have to eat. And we have a family as well. So, at some point I just had to say, no, we have to file taxes. And at some point they're going to think this is a hobby, but it really isn't. I'd love to be able to do this full time because I did not know how much of a passion of mine that it was. But after talking to people and seeing it flow out of me, wow, it captures me. It pulls me out of bed. It motivates me to come up with new ideas of how to reach people. And so at some point we have to start looking at the financial part of it in order for it to be sustainable, right? Because even nonprofits need money to pay their staff. They need money to run and take care of administrative and overhead and things like that. So for people to think that it doesn't take finances to get this stuff done in the world, I'm not sure where they are. But everything requires some sort of a financial underpinning in order for it to be going and to be maintained. Because if you have to travel to anywhere, if you're doing it from your home, you still have bills to pay, utilities, rent, or a mortgage.
The internet. The lights.
You need to eat, you need to buy food. The opportunity cost if you're putting more time into this versus working a full-time job. Those are the realities. And so we had to make the switch in 2025 to now charging for some sessions so we're able to pay the virtual assistant and offset the promotional charges of paying for Riverside. We have to pay for Riverside. We're paying for Opus clips to cut up our interviews or to video clips to post them online. We're paying for Calendly to book appointments. We're paying for so many other things. It adds up over time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Just maybe a point of recognition. If you are hearing this story, I see you, I hear you, right? I mean, I can't physically see you right now wherever you are in the world. But listen, we recognize how challenging it is to leave your home. And there's a lot of mixed emotions because there's excitement for what you see on TV that you're going to be immersed in. But the reality is, once you're on the ground, you're faced with challenges with, and I've listed a lot of them, the cultural loss of cultural self, the cultural homelessness where you no longer fit into your birth or your adopted country and you're in the in-between and you're like, how do I find belonging? Who are these people that I am just with and I can just relax and be myself and not feel like I have to keep code switching from one version of myself to another just to be able to build rapport with people. the accent bias, the discrimination, the learning racism, the list goes on, and the
Yeah.
finding work and how do you operate in the different workplaces, operating by chromatic time versus polychromatic time, where you're expected to just be focused on work, 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 work.
Yeah.
Versus from collectivist communities, it's more so about community and relationships, and work is not the number one priority. It's much more of a balance about living. I'd love to hear your story wherever you are. Reach out to us if you'd like to share your story with our audience. I do have a space for free interviews for certain types of interviews, right? And then for people who want to use a platform for marketing purposes and they have a budget, then those are the people who get charged. But if you're somebody out there who have just a very compelling story of how you've overcome challenges moving abroad, we want to hear it. We want to share your story with the world. We want to provide the space for you to feel heard, to feel seen. Because I tell you, when we first started, I would spend 2 hours or more just listening to some people. And they say it feels like therapy for somebody to actually sit and say, oh my gosh, like this is what I went through when I had to be forced out of my country and I had to move to this country and I was in the middle of this civil war. And now I arrive in this new country and I have to start all over with my family and figure out this place. And so it can be therapeutic for some people just to finally tell the story of what that was like for you. And so that's why we exist. That's why we exist. We're here for you, and we want to validate your experience. We don't want you to continue living in the dark, in the shadows, like you're a nobody. You're a human being just like everybody else. And so we're holding space for you. So we'd love to hear your story or whatever you'd like to share with us, or the support that you need. We're here to provide that as well.
I think there's some interesting concept that you mentioned that I'll definitely be exploring later on, like the idea of cultural homelessness. It's the first time I hear the term, but I really recognize myself in that. Sometimes even before I moved away, like I was already interested in different cultures, and you start adapting it, and then you start changing from the people here that are like only within that culture that we grew up in. And I think it's important to hold space for that and give attention to that as well, because a lot of people don't realize like the difficulties that people go through as immigrants. And I used to say, like, when I was in the Netherlands, I would be missing home, and when I was home, I would miss the Netherlands. So it can become difficult to really find a place where you feel at home and welcome, that these are my people that understand me. Just that it's an important step in these particular times that we're living in. We're going to see more and more people having to immigrate to other countries. We're already seeing like certain effects from climate change in the south that it's making people become refugees and therefore having to immigrate into other countries. War is also, I don't want to say on the rise, but there are more worse conflicts.
Conflicts, civil unrest.
Right. Also creating refugees and people are immigrating to other countries, right? For me, it's difficult to see like what's happening in the US, that a lot of immigrants are then being put into jail as if they are criminals, and just the lack of understanding from one human to another about what it takes to leave your country and then not really feeling at home in the new place and not feeling like you can return to your country even if it was like safe and you can return, but you're like this new person, and now there's a name for it. So thank you so much for sharing your story and the work that you do. Like, I have this book, and I think it is for refugees. You want to tell a bit more about it before you go? Decoding America.
So, right, and coming home to yourself, the immigrant experience. So I tell my personal journey of going through, like, losing myself like really not really knowing who I was from, I was in Jamaica for like a certain time, and I was grounded in that person. And then when I arrived here, over time of changing and kind of, trying to figure out like what is this new place and how do I fit in it, and the labels that people want to put on you, like you have this skin tone, so this is what you are and this is what you represent. I really lost myself, and I was going through some level of depression, I want to say, because I didn't understand the impact of the culture shock, that because of the new world I was in. And so I talk about like my journey here, my family's journey coming to the US. I talk about like snippets of some of the people that I've interviewed and their encouraging words to immigrants as they leave their home countries. And I encourage people to embrace their superpower, because I really think it's a superpower. When you move from one culture and you go into another culture and you become part of that new culture, and you're hybrid of these two, there's not a lot of people who can be bridge people like you can. You understand both worlds, and you can flow seamlessly at times between both, and you can build bridges and understanding between these multiple worlds. And so I really encourage people to embrace that superpower and to come home, to recognize your heritage, recognize where you're from. Some people choose to completely assimilate to the country that they go to. They learn the language, and when you see them in a few years, you can't even recognize them as being born in this other country.
Right.
They've completely changed. And I understand some people do it because they just want to fit in. They want to be accepted. They don't want to be stigmatized, if they come from certain countries, right? And so they just really want to fit in, not to have to deal with all that animosity. And I get that. For me, this is where my journey has taken me. I'm coming home to accept where I'm from, embracing it, speaking exactly how I sound, whatever accent or no accent or a mixture of whatever I sound like today. I'm embracing that, because listen, until you embrace yourself, nobody is going to embrace you. You will always be caught in this no man's land of seeking for external validation. And it's very important to come home to yourself, to really just accept your accent, the way you look, the way you show up in the world. And I tell you, it's very healing and therapeutic once you start on that journey of embracing who you're becoming as this third culture person.
Nice. I like your cover there. As by appealing to my visual arts side. Nice. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your journey again and your work. And I hope we get the right people listening to this that can actually, have the time. I say have the time because I'm always interested to help, but I have to hold myself back because I'm also super busy. And I'm the editor and the promoter and everything right now. So unfortunately, I can't join your team, but I do hope that we can find the right person to help you with this, because I think it's important work, especially as I said now, with more people becoming immigrants. Yeah, I think refugees, yeah, right.
Name it.
Yeah. With the trends that we're seeing politically, I think it's more and more important to have these spaces where we can find each other and share these experiences with each other and build community. I think this is a good case study for community building and how you can use podcasting and the internet to find your tribe, so to say, in this case.
It's interesting that you mentioned about how your study of international development management and the different changes that are happening around the world and how they're forcing international movements of people. I think that's an interesting topic. I don't know if you've covered it on your podcast, but I'd be love to hear more about that. But I'm intrigued about your own personal story. Are you from Aruba or Bonaire?
I'm from Bonaire.
And where did you went to the Netherlands for some time to study, or your family's there?
No, I went there to study. I'd say 2010 I moved there. I studied tourism, which is not really what I wanted to study. It's one one of these, like, you're expected to be a doctor. I guess here in the Caribbean, we're expected to go into tourism because that's what makes the money. Yeah, I was kind of massaged into going to study for tourism after I said I wanted to be an artist or do something creative. So I did that, and afterwards I thought I always had like a spirit to be an entrepreneur. I knew I didn't really want to work for a boss in that sense, like a 9-to-5 thing. So I decided to study business, which I did a year of, and that was too economic for me. I do obviously care about the social and environmental aspect of things as well. So I could never be like, okay, let's deplete all of the resources on Earth just for money kind of thing, which was literally said by one of the teachers there, which kind of triggered me to look for another studies. And that's how I came across international development management. And I thought that was a better fit for me. And I went into that. You kind of go in idealistically. I think a lot of people that choose that study are very idealistic, and you see us from miles away, it's like the hippie looking kind of student. Save the world, we are the world kind of thing. But you go in and you really start hearing about the issues, and okay, you want to go to whatever village in a country in Africa and help them with hunger, but then there's these powers that be, and there's if you want to mess with the cacao sector, there's these powers that be. So you're learning about, okay, you want to make change. These are the things you have to keep in mind, that there are certain, the word that I'm looking for is like interest, like of powerful corporations or countries or whatever be it. The people may not want that change, so you just keep getting hit after hit after hit. So I was depressed by the third year of my studies, because you realize, yes, you might want to see a better world, but there are legitimate things working against you as well to reach that. And that's when I could choose a minor, and I did my minor in creativity and art, and that was the happiest 6 months of my academic life, because I just got to make art.
Career.
And
It's called career alignment.
yes.
Alignment with your values, your internal truth, with who you are. It just feels like bliss, right?
Yes.
And I know some people might say, where's the money in that? But listen, money isn't everything. You have doctors who are miserable and are taking their lives. Engineers and lawyers who are bending over under work and are not happy, and they did it because maybe their parents or immigrant parents pushed them, or they did it because for the money. But what's the point if you're just going to be here to make money and you can't take any of it with you when you leave?
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't enjoy it while you're here. So, but in any case, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
I
it's
just wanted
okay.
to say that is you're telling the story of career alignment. Yes.
And then when I finished, and I told you earlier about that moment that after my studies that I thought, well, now I'm just going to be an artist. It started to eat at me that I had all of this knowledge of how to bring change, and I was just going to sit and paint the whole day. I couldn't do that either. So that's where and it's interesting that during my minor, I started asking myself, well, how can I combine the two? How can I be an artist and also be someone that facilitates change? And I've been asking myself that question ever since, and it's developed into my business, and I like doing the 2 different podcasts where we're looking at personal growth, but also I call it inner world and outer world, right? Like you have to develop both if we really want change. But I'm also doing things like helping people publish books, as long as it's within my niche of what I call holistic development. So I also get to do this creative thing. So I think the real alignment for me is that I cannot do one or the other. I have to find a way to do all of the things I can't do all of the things at once, but I can have little projects. Like I'm doing a project where we're looking at food resilience on the island. We're gonna do a campaign, like a media campaign. So it's weaving. Sometimes it's a bit more creative. Sometimes it's a bit more development, but it's starting to really align from that moment where, I decided, okay, I have to find a way to combine both, because otherwise, I can't. I won't be happy just doing the one or the other. So that's
Right.
what I'm doing.
Yes, that's your calling. You're listening to the calling of your soul, like what you were here to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes our well-meaning parents, they think they know the best for us and they're here as guides. But I think we have to get in connection with our internal voice, and the more we listen, the more louder and powerful it gets, and the more we're self-directed. I hope I can allow our little one to be able to find and to keep that voice, right? And that it doesn't get dimmer and dimmer, but that it doesn't leave her as she grows up. I think it's as they call it, conscious parenting, where you're just in tune with your child and allow her to really follow that. So I'm glad that you pushed through despite all the other people and what they were saying, and you're finding the right balance for you, where you can find joy, and you're a better, probably experience you as more joyful, more connected, more purposefully, right? And so that's important, because I've been in places where I'm just working out of just being a responsible thing because it's the good thing to do, but you're so disconnected and unhappy. And I'm finding my joy again with this project that I started. So
I'll keep saying it's important work, and I can see the excitement also floating from you. So I think I was happy that you contacted me to talk about it, and I'm happy to share this with the audience. And who knows, maybe we decide to do another podcast at some point together.
Yeah, let's keep talking. There's a lot to explore. I did a minor in international development myself, and having been born in Jamaica and part of my life there and my international travels and being in this space, there's a lot to talk about, like what you observe and how policies impact countries and smaller developing countries, and how it's lots of conversation around that. But we can keep exploring that, and maybe there's another way to collaborate. I'd love to share this as well to my audience and let people know the work that you're doing as well. So be sure we'll continue the conversation and making sure we get this out to both of our audiences. It was a pleasure joining you and having such a pleasant conversation, and learning about you and where you're from and your immigrant experience and the influence that you're creating in the world. So let's keep the conversation going. I love meeting people like you.
Thank you so much, Simone. It was nice meeting you too and talking to you. And we overcame a lot of difficulties, but we got it. Until next time on the Kreashon Podcast. Bye-bye.
We thank our listeners around the world, and we appreciate your continued support as we build our human library. Please remember to give us a 5-star review, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, and circle of influence.